if you don't hear me at any point, you can wave at me or tell me to be louder. Or if you don't hear something, repeat, let me know. I'll kind of like teach a bit and then kind of walk around to help anyone. And then also Brandon's over here. If you ever get lost, can wave at him, tell him to come over here. And this is kind of just like a collaborative, like we're learning environment. And we're gonna start from ground zero. So if you never touched Touchdesigner, great. If you have, then you're gonna just do it again. So we advertise this as an audio-reactive workshop, but we'll go over the interface of Touchdesigner and like play with doing 2D animation first. We'll do like 2 little 2D animation projects together, and then we'll go into doing a 3D animation, and then we'll go into audio-reactive and make that audio-reactive. And I'll give like options so you can make the projects kind of your own, like what colors you want, the scale you want, the dimensions you want, and that's how we'll structure this. And if there's any time at the end to ask questions, or if you have any questions along the way, bring it up and stuff, because probably other people is gonna have questions too. So Touchdesigner, I assume you guys all downloaded it by now. It's a real-time software. It's founded in Toronto, Canada. And before Touchdesigner was actually, if you ever guys know the software Houdini, it used to be the same software. And Houdini is more done for visual effects. And then at a certain point, they branched out and Touchdesigner became more doing real-time events, concerts, and such. And then Houdini focused more onto visual effects. So you can use Touchdesigner. Today we're doing on like real-time animation, but it's used for lasers, for controlling visuals, stage design, projection mapping, lights. You can do a lot of things. And it's also a good software to connect different other softwares to get together. It's like there's hybrid of Unreal and Touchdesigner, or Unity and Touchdesigner, and list goes on. So, and it's also good for working with sensors, so like connect sensors for Arduinos. There's a few projects here for WIP that using Touchdesigner. If you go down later on near the bathroom and near the kitchen, there is a project by, I forgot his name, but it is a, Yes, yeah, it's an interactive Touchdesigner project, and there's a connect sensor projection map. And I have a project in the art studio that is using API data with using Google APIs, using different locations, time zone, weather, and elevation to change lights. So you can play with that later. Great. So if we all had Touchdesigner, let's just jump on in. You can open the software. And guys, I assume you guys all like the non-commercial is free, and you can do so much with a non-commercial license. The non-commercial license, the only kind of limitation is one, like you're not supposed to do commercial projects, and just really like the dimension. So you can't do HD, but you can go up to like 1280 by 720 or 1280 by 1280 resolution, and that's quite a lot. And so when you open, this is the network, and we'll kind of go over just kind of how to navigate through here a bit. So it is node-based. Things go from left to right. So if you press on tab, it opens all these operators. So there are all these different pages. There are different operators. There's comps, tops, chops, sops, mats, dats, custom. And it might seem a lot. We're not going to go through all of them. And I'm pretty sure you ask anyone, they don't really know what all of them do. But we'll kind of go more on like tops, chops, and some sops. So tops is texture data. So it's like whatever you do with 2D. So if you have like movies, if you have images, we're going to play with tops a bit. It's really kind of, what I really enjoy about Touchdesigner is that there's so many people from different backgrounds. I came from an animation background. There's a lot of musicians that went to Touchdesigner. There's architectures, there's programmers. So kind of depending on your background, sometimes it makes you more familiar or comfortable in different sections. So in the beginning, I gravitate towards tops. You can kind of do a lot of like real-time editing. Like if you're into After Effects, you can kind of do effects with that, compositing together. If you're like more a musician, maybe you'll grasp more to chops because that's all data based. So you can like work with LFOs or sensors. You can go into chops. SOPs is like 3D stuff. So we'll play with making like a 3D animation in SOPs, but Touchdesigner is not like a 3D software, so like there's limitations. It's not the best for like shadows and making really photorealistic animation. So you can do 3D stuff, but if you think like, oh, I'm gonna just use this and be a 3D artist, there's a barrier at a certain point. Mats is materials, so materials for your SOPs. So we'll go over a little bit of mats of like different type of materials we can use for that. And DATS is mostly on code. Well, it's code. So we're not gonna play so much with DATS. And like really kind of beginning on, you don't have to don't have to touch DATS. So that's kind of like the beauty of Touchdesigner. It is Python based, but you can do quite a lot without knowing how to code. We'll do like maybe short little lines of code that's often used, apptime.frame. We'll go there. But other than that, we won't touch DATS. Great. So this is a network. We'll kind of just go over this whole center area is called a network editor. So if I refer to the network editor, this is what I'm talking about over here. And on this left side is the palette. So when you open and you see this palette, maybe you don't see a palette, then you can just click on this little button over here. And if you hover on it, it says open palette, and you can click on it. And it's a common mistake. Maybe you try and open a palette and then you click to the left, and then you're like, what's happening? Where am I? If you get to this, maybe you'll just get a black screen. Just press the escape button. That's the perform mode. In the beginning, I did that a lot. So it's giving like common mistake stuff. Over here is a parameter box. So these are all different nodes operators. So you can play around to selecting them. And then when you select them, you notice this parameter box change. So these are specific to different operators nodes. And you see these boxes are purple. So if we go on tab, we notice that the tops are purple. So it kind of shows like this is in the tops family. This is like the 2D family. And you see this one is like green, and that's in the chop family. So you can also play around just like getting comfortable, like pressing tab and just like selecting an operator and dropping it down. Sometimes you're like, okay, I want a movie file in, but there's so many. You can just type in like MO, and then whatever has that, it kind of like everything else is blacked out. So that's a way to find the operator you want faster rather than trying to comb through everything. And if you notice certain operators, like if you get it, it's like X'd out. It means like it needs to feed another thing into it, at least for tops. So it's like if I connect this, then I don't get that X anymore. And if you have an X, a good way to kind of figure out what's happening, if you have a mouse, you can middle click your mouse on it, and it gives you this information about this. If you don't have a mouse, you can't middle click, you can click on this, you can select it and have the parameter box, click the I, and then you also get that information. So you can see like, okay, the dimension is 128 by 128, what's the pixel, how much GPU memory, just like a way to kind of understand what's the information in that. So select this. So everything in Touchdesigner is left to right. So if you can also like play around with just connecting this little spaghetti area and like connecting it over. But like if I can't do it from like if I want to connect this left to this right side, it doesn't work. It only can do it from like left to right. But within the family, it can only connect within the family. So if I put in a chop and I want to connect this in here, it's like, hey, we're not related. No, you don't speak the same language. But there are ways to still have different operators to communicate. So if you see over here, this is a chop, but it has this arrow over here. And it's over here, you see this says like chop noise. It is like referring to it. So we'll play with some like how do we connect with chops to like tops or to stops and stuff. And then when that happens, you'll see like more of like a clear arrow. And depending if you're using Windows, it might seem more like a dash line than like a more solid line. Oops. Yeah. So, and if you notice, if you like scroll out, you'll get out to here. So that's how these are called containers or comps. So they're in this comp family. And think of them as like boxes. So you can go inside a box, and that's also a way you can organize. You can put in boxes of stuff. So you can put like all your audio in one box, and then we're gonna work on different visuals. So we're gonna, the way I like to organize it is like we'll work on a animation, and we'll put it all in one box, and we'll do another animation, another box, and we'll put an audio, another box, and then we'll like connect the audio over there. So that's the way to kind of keep organized. That's kind of early on when someone starts, maybe you just follow tutorials and it gets really messy, and then it's a good habit in the beginning to try to keep your network organized. Cool. So you can either scroll in and scroll out to get out of the containers, or you can use U and I. So I as in, U to get out. Actually, hold on. I just added this so you can see what my mouse is if you get ever confused. So you can go in and out through that. And then some mouse navigation. If you select left or right and pull, you can select everything over here. So if I want to delete everything, I can left drag and delete, which I will. And also if you have 2021 and beyond model, so this is 2022, a great newish feature is you can add comments and annotations. So any point you want to add like a note on it, you can do, sorry, Mac is a little bit different. Shift C? Shift Alt. Shift Alt. Okay, I think the Mac is different. Control Alt. Why Shift Control Alt? Control. I don't have an Alt button. Yeah.
Right click, you can do add annotation, I think, right?
What's Shift A, C.
Alt box.
Shift C is for comment, Shift A for annotate. So, and for the comment, you might have this box on the side. If you don't see it, you can press C to open it, and then you can also change the color of it. And then you can like write notes. And this was really great once it came out, because sometimes there's multiple people working in a network and you don't know what's happening, or you like open it up in like 3 months later and you don't know what you do and stuff. So comments are great, and you can like code them. And maybe you have different sections where maybe you don't want to put everything in a container, and then it's like, oh, I will work on my audio stuff on the left, I will work on my animation on the right. You can do annotation, which is Shift A, and then whatever, and you can make it bigger. And whatever is in this, you can move it and it'll move within it. So it's kind of like a container where you can see inside. And same here, you can also change the color of it and you can like label it. So I'm gonna say like test, and you can also increase the font, organize it the way you want. So I am gonna delete everything. And delete everything. And let's start building something. So also one more shortcut is maybe you have like, you want more space and you don't want this parameter box, you can also just press P to get the parameter box out of the way. Or at any time you're like, I don't know where my parameter box, probably press P. And we'll also play around sometimes like splitting screens, which is in this plane layout. You can split your screen the way you want over here. So you can go look at one side of container and outside container at the same time. Great. And before we go tops, just also, there are so many operators, and anytime like you don't know like what an operator does, just kind of giving like a on your own help thing, there's different resources. Over here you see these question marks. One of them, you can go to help, you select it, it'll open the derivative page, information on that node. So it tells you like, okay, so this is a select top, the different parameters, what it does, what are different parameters in it, and the info on it. You can read up on that. The other one, the question mark with the blue and yellow, is on the Python help. So if you want to use anything more code based on that, this is where it can help. It's like, oh, this width is int base, this is float. But different people will learn differently. Like I like to kind of see it as an example. So you can go to this help tab and go to operator snippets. And it opens this box over here. And you can select different types of operators and it'll give you like a sample of it. So then you're like, oh, how do I use a multiply top over here? And it shows you like this like an example file. And sometimes for certain ones, there's like multiple pages here and it has notes. And maybe you see something like, oh, I like this, I want this in my project. You can right click, copy, and like paste it into your, right click, copy, and paste this in. So then you can have it too. So operator snippets, I like to use operator snippets more than reading upon it, but just giving all the different options there. Great. So let's just start playing with some tops. Is there any questions so far? We're good?
How did you find the last one?
Snippets? Yes. You go to help and then the operator snippets. Yeah, right here. The right clip operator, is there? I don't see it. Oh, yeah, find operators, but I don't see operator snippet. See. Right click. Oh, yeah, you can also select the operator snippets on the node. Yeah. Cool. So let's start with tops. Before we kind of start building an animation, one very common tops use is movie file in. And once you do a movie file in, you'll see this banana. It's just one of the stock image for Touchdesigner, and it becomes this kind of like inside joke in Touchdesigner. If you ever go to like any Touchdesigner events, like maybe someone's like has a banana shirt or something, or you're like a banana meme. It's just because it's just you're like, haha, there's a banana Touchdesigner. But once you put a movie file in, you can select your own images, or you can also select a movie. We won't go too deep into it today, but if you ever get really into like I want to use Touchdesigner to like have all these video outputs, and then maybe a common mistake you'd have all these movie files in, and you notice that your network is slowing down. It's because in Touchdesigner, the best codec is for Notch LC or HAP. So that's just like a common mistake, or not mistake, but a common problem if you put a bunch of MP4s and then you notice that everything slows down. You can look up Notch LC. It's like a free codec that you can, if you have a media encoder, you can change it to this codec, or HAPQ is another one. So
this is for what thing? For the export?
If you have like movies or you have like animation video files and you want to put it into Touchdesigner Play, if you put too much, it might slow down because it's not, it wants to be in a certain file type. And
it's better to export them with this one.
So in encoder, you can change to NOS LC or HAP or HAPQ. It's just in past workshops, and then I noticed we do of people doing on their projects, and they're like, "Why is it slowing down?" Just a little side note that I feel like people get in tutorials as much, that they like it's a common thing, and then so just like a side note that if you're ever like putting files like everything is all slow now and this Touchdesigner sucks. If you convert it into Notch LC or a HAPQ, then it goes fast and everything. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. You're like, I don't have that many things, and it's not so complicated. What's happening? Yeah, but we'll kind of play around. So we started with this like jelly bean file, and movie file in. So movie file in over here. Yeah, you can put any image you want. So if you like open this file, so you can do any file image. If you go back, so then it has like butterfly, has this cloud. I'm gonna choose a cloud. And I'm gonna copy and paste this, so I have two clouds, but I'm gonna change this one to something else. I'll change it to a butterfly. So one thing, like when I started in Touchdesigner, which I thought was really fun, is that you can do like a lot of compositing stuff. You can do like in After Effects or like, but in real time. So like if I want to have this butterfly on top of this cloud, first thing I kind of check is like, what is this resolution? So if I select middle click button or that eye on this parameter, this one is 512 by 512, and this is 2000 by 1000. So they're two different resolutions. So if I layer this on, it's going to stretch one of them because they want to be in the same resolution. So I'm going to kind of just show, if I right click on this edge, I can just, that's a way that I can get another node that directly connects it with it rather than having to spaghetti it over. So if I put a composite top, and then I get this like X button because a composite needs at least two different nodes to it. So if I connect these two, the butterfly stretches.
Just if you're using the free version of Touch and you open something that's more resolution in 1280,
you'll get like an eye.
Yeah, that's the exclamation point. It's just because the resolution is low.
Yeah, and then you can just, for now, just ignore it. It doesn't really, it's not gonna cause too much problem right now. But you see like how over here it's stretched, and then this over here on this comp you can see the different type of way of compositing. Right now is a multiply. So if you can do like over, the butterfly is on top of the other one. And maybe, and over here, down here, it shows the order that is composite. So if the sky is on top, then it's on top of it, and I don't see the butterfly. You can choose the order if you want.
So how did you get that node?
Yeah. Yeah, so you can either do tab, get composite, or you can right click on the node and then press composite and then connect the other one. No problem. So you can kind of play around, just seeing the different type of composites, like what it does. There's, I think, 45 different ways. Yeah, 45 different composite types. But
A lot of these will seem familiar.
yeah, if you do like After Effects or like Touch or like Photoshop, you're like, oh, I know what a multiply does, or like what overlay does, or pin light. I don't want this butterfly stretched, so I need to make at least one of them into the same, have both of them in the same resolution. So I'm going to make this sky into this resolution. So there are different ways, but one way you can do is add a fit. So maybe on this, between this, I want to make it to this size. So I can right click next to the sky one, and I'll put a fit top. And this fit top, now it makes it 1,000 by 1,000. If I go to the common page, I can change it to what resolution I want. So over here, it's 512 by 512. It's quite small, but I want it to be the same, so I'll just make it also the same, 512. And this is on the second page, so you might see the fit. It's on the common page. Usually the resolution to change it is always on the common page. So and you see in this composite, because the sky is just like fitting into this square that over here is negative space, maybe I want to just crop into it so it fills the whole box. So in this fit, if I go back to the fit page, there is different options of fitting. So I can select and play around, like what does a fill do? What does fit horizon? So it kind of goes back to how it was. Fit vertical, that's kind of like what I want more. Fit best, squish. Fit outside, native resolution. So I want like a fit outside. Great, so I can see the butterfly, I see the sky. I want the butterfly on top of the sky, so I will add a over instead. And you don't want to change the color of this butterfly, so let's change the saturation, the levels of it. I can, between here, add another node. I'll add a very common used node, which is levels. And again, kind of if you do any Photoshop or After Effects, this might be familiar, where they have these different levels where I'm like, you can change the brightness, you can change the gamma, the contrast of stuff. You can just play around with the different pages and see what it does. Sometimes I don't really know the really official terms of what it does. I just kind of play around, play around. It's like, I like this, which is, I think, the more fun way to learn. But if you were like, again, like you can click on the help and it can get like more detail of like what are the different parameters of different things. But you can play with the gamma, the opacity, RGB, the red, the green, the blue levels. Great. And after this, I will add a null. So if anyone codes, often at the end you add a null, and that's kind of safety, where in case that I want to add more nodes in between, this will always keep the same. So we're gonna kind of practice this whenever we make something. At the end, we'll add a null, or maybe I'll add null and add different operators in between it.
You mean if you reference the endpoint,
Mm-hmm.
so it never changes, but
Yeah.
it keeps taking it before that?
Yeah, so then, yeah, and what's great about Touchdesigner is that you can see every step here. But yeah, if I reference this and then it's like, oh, I wanted to like add something afterwards, then it won't break if you add the null and just reference a null at the end. Exactly.
What is the name of that operator?
Huh?
What is the name of the final thing that you?
Null. So, and I think,
Oh, okay.
and all of them has like, there's a chop null, there's a sop null, there's a mat, and then so it's a good practice to always like end with a null, and you can change the name of it too. Sometimes like I like to call it out, but some people don't like that because there is an out node too, and some people like get confused. But I've seen people who at the end call it BK for background, different practices, or just keep it as a null. And if you have different multiple different operators, so like if I keep copying this and pasting, you'll notice that what happens, it just counts it. So null 1, null 2, null 3. But if you get too many nulls, it might get confusing. So you can just rename this. Yeah. Yeah, so you can call it like comp null or something. And so we see every step over here, but once it get kind of busy, it could be a good practice to click on this flag over here to just hide it, because everything is kind of cooking, or it'll.
Running in the background.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Eat your memory.
Yeah. So then if you, good practice when you get like too much, you can hide this, or just like have the end or certain points to show it. And you can rescale this I highly recommend not doing that. If you ever like want to see something, to scroll closer to it, because then it can get also really messy fast if you scale too much. And if maybe like at the end you can scale it bigger, or if you want to, like this is important, you can press C and change this to a different color. Great. Awesome. Oh, I lost the tool. Cool. You can keep this. I'm gonna delete it. We're gonna build our first like little animation together, and then I'm gonna put it in a base comp. So tab on the comp page, I'm gonna call it get a base, and I'm gonna just call this animation 1, or top animation 1. Cool. And then, yeah, so you can press tab, and on the first page, the comp page, you can get base, and then in the base, it's just a box pretty much, and then I'm going to rename this to top animation, and we're going to build everything inside this box. So you can either scroll in to get in, or just double click on it, and then you're inside. And up here is like a path bar, so you can see where you are in the network. So I'm inside a project, inside to top animation. So like if you have a folder in your Windows, it also has a path bar, so you know where you are. So also if I click up here, it'll jump me back out, and then this is just a good reference. Let's start by go to chops. So chops is like beta section. We're gonna just add a constant. And a constant is pretty much like empty. You can put whatever you want into it. So I'm going to add in this parameter box, I'm going to press the plus button. So I'm going to have two different parts in the constant. And then first I'm going to call this res x. And the second one I'm going to call res y. So I'm going to use this to refer the resolution I want for this project. So everything can reference this, that if I want to make it bigger or smaller, I don't have to do it in a bunch of different nodes area. So right now, I want it to have a square. So it can be, I can put it on Instagram. So I want a square resolution. So I'll put 1080 by 1080. So as constant, chop, and afterwards I'm gonna just add a null. So I'll be referencing the null rather than a constant. And I'll just call this res null.
How did you get your constant?
Yeah. So no problem. So this constant, you can press a plus on it, so that you can make all the different like channels of it. And then you can make two channels, and I just name one res x. This one. Yeah, and yeah, so there, yeah, the green one, the chops. And then once I have this, yes.
I put a space in the name of my channel.
Yeah.
And it appears like I have two channels now.
Don't have a space.
Space is always going to make it an underscore because it breaks the
I mean,
definition.
it appears like there are three of them now, but they're actually two.
Interesting. I've actually never seen that happen. That's cool. Because he has a res.
Oh, cool.
X,
And now
tied
chop, yeah.
together.
When you do,
That might be a fun.
It's a null.
Yeah.
or under the hood, it creates two.
If they're tied to the same
Yeah.
value, the same format. That's cool. I've never seen that.
I think it looks good now.
I just put underscore. You can have it all together too. It's just a name. So
Usually on Windows, it just automatically gives that to you.
cool. So we have this. Let's go back to tops, and we'll add a noise. I would say very common if you see a generative animation from scratch in Touchdesigner, at some point there's a noise. And this noise, if you middle click on it, you see it's quite small. It's 256 by 256 resolution. And we're going to make it to what we want, 1080 by 1080. So if in the noise, I'm going to go to the comment page. I can just put in the size I want, but for this project, I'm going to reference this. So how to reference, the easy way is in this resolution null, I'm going to click on this plus flag. And you can hover it, says viewer active, so I'm going to make a viewer active. This is important. And once I click on it, that green frame is gone. And if I hover on it, it will turn green. So like if this one's not viewer active, that I hover on it, nothing happens. But I hover on this, it turns green. And then I want to first do the X one. So 1080 resolution X, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to drag to where I want to put it. So make sure this is selected so I can see that I want to put this here. I want to put the width. So I can just drag and pull this to this area. And this window happens, and it's like export chop, chop reference, current chop value. I recommend to use chop reference. And you know you got the right one when it's blue. So again, you're like, oh, how do I reference it? Viewer active, press the plus, make sure I select this, and then drag this to where you want to put it. So don't just drag it on here, but like I want to put into resolution W, no, H. And then this first one, you see there is like that line I told you that it's communicating, but it's not like spaghetti connecting. So I'm gonna do it for, and you see how now this the size changed because this is 1080 by 256. So I want to do the same thing to the Y, where I drag this to the resolution H. So now if I middle click on it, it's 1080 by 1080. It is the resolution I want. So this kind of showing if I change this, I want this to be like 740. Now I don't have to go in here, it'll directly change it. So then if we have multiple nodes, you don't have to follow, just kind of showing example. I don't have to change it, all of them. I can just do it here and all of them scales together and stuff. And that's kind of the point of this. Great, delete this. So back to the noise. You can go to the first page. We're gonna play around with different of these parameters. I'll give you recommendations, but do whatever values you want. So the period, I'm going to increase this, maybe put 145. You can also just drag around here. Another way is if you middle click on here and then you pull, and also can change the value. And if you middle click, you notice that there's like 10, 1, 0.1, 0.01, 0.002, and this is how much it drags, how much value it drags at a time. So like this only drags very little. You can do 10, which is like a lot, but like 0.1, you can play around with middle clicking and dragging. And if you don't have a 3-button mouse, then sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how people use Touchdesigner without a scroll wheel.
It's possible, but it's just there's certain things that you can't do as much easily. So, that's so bright.
It's just the sun.
Yeah, but there is curtains I can't find. Can you? Yeah.
Stratus is trying. He's got the remote.
Okay, cool. Great. I'm gonna have this be 1.45. Harmonics. Let's play how it looks with 0. I'm gonna have a 0. Harmonic spread, I'll do 0.7 maybe. Oops. Harmonics 0. There's no right. Make your own noise look that you want. You can play with like what does the exponent does. I will play with having a little bit lower, so like 0.2 maybe. Amplitude is a common use one, especially when we play with audio-reactive. Amplitude is a fun one. So you see this like 2D image, but I want to maybe like have it move. So we're going to go to the transform section. And in the transform section, whatever you like select on it, it can kind of just drop down. Then you can see that this is like TX, TY, TZ. And at TZ, we're going to do this very common Python script. abs.time.frame. And then you see like, oh my god, this is so crazy. It's going really fast. And right now it's just counting, so I can slow it down by like times 0.005, and now it's slowed down. So again, this is like if you've never done abs.time.frame, this is like a nice comment note thing to have. abs.time.frame. It's common little script that is done in Touchdesigner, and it'll just make it count up, pretty much. And then if you want to slow it down, you can times it to whatever fraction you want. So like you can put this also in the X section.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is one the frame rate?
1 the frame rate.
Like if you have it at ×1,
It's the same.
Like it's moving like every second, you mean?
Like is the value that you're multiplying by times 0.005?
Yeah, it's a fraction of what the count. Yeah. Yeah. So there's also abs time dot seconds, which goes by the seconds rather than a frame. But it's more common. Certain things, abs time dot second is better, but most things I recommend abs time dot frame. We'll play with ramps later, and that's kind of like one of the things I think abs time dot seconds is better recommended. Yeah. I'm gonna have this back into the Z. And also, sorry, talking about frame rate, you see up here FPS, this is where the frame rate is right now, 60. And this is showing like what is the actual frame rate. And then down here on the corner, you also see FPS, and this is like, you can put in the frame rate you want. So it's automatically, Touchdesigner is 60. If you notice your frame rate is dropping a lot, you can go down to 30. But I'll keep it to 60 for now.
Just to mention one thing, if your brain just works a couple different ways, instead of times .001, you can also do
divide.
And just put 100 or
yeah.
Just whatever your brain
yeah.
wants.
It's just an equation. Yeah. So you can put what works for you better. And also this noise, I'm going to just go back to the noise tab. I'm going to turn off monochrome. And now it's just like pretty colors. So I made one noise. Let's make another noise. I'm going to just copy and paste this. So then it's already has this resolution referred to it. And I'm going to just change these different parameters to something different. So again, this abs time frame, maybe I don't want it on the Z this time. I'm going to have it on the X and Y. And I can also have it go in the opposite direction, so I can put it a negative, so it counts down.
Sorry, after frame, what did you write? Because I cannot see.
Oh, so here, abs time dot frame, you can do times, yeah, star. Yeah, you can do star, or you can do slash to divide. So if you can do like divide 100, or you can do abs time dot frame times. Times, I did 001, but you can play with different values. You can see how it looks with 0.1, 0.2, if you put a negative in front of it. Yeah.
There's also me.time.frame.
Huh?
There is also me.time.
So it's referring to its own time of it. So the node's time. So it's like, so certain things, especially like chops, that has a different frame rate than it's like referring to itself. Yeah. So this one, I'm gonna just play around, making it different, look different. Let me get exponent, amplitude higher. Change the period to 2, harmonics to 0, spread 0.6. Lower the gain. And I'll total have 3 noises, so you can make another noise and play around having different parameters on the third noise.
Quickly is also just change the C and it'll be.
Yeah, you can also do that. It's just like the same parameters, but a different variation of that parameter. But I just feel like it's fun to just play around with playing with different parameters. And you can also just explore and click on this type and see different types of noise. It's just kind of using a different structure of noise to create it.
How does it change the color or remove the monochrome?
The monochrome, click on off. So it's a toggle. So you,
It's on, oh, there.
yeah, in the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah. Great. So we have these three noises. Let's just play around with like compositing them together. So I'm going to add a composite top. Composite top have an X because nothing's connected to it. I'm going to connect all three together. Fast way, going to right click, select all three. See, they're all highlighted. And if I just drag in one, all three of them are connected. Then you don't have to drag each one individually. And if you're here, you can just first just play around and see like a different type of way of compositing that you like. This is kind of cool. Darker color. Lava lamp look. Difference. Quite nice. And then maybe also once you get the composite, you can play or go back to the noise and change the parameters like, oh, maybe this one I don't want in monochrome. How does that look? So exploring. Good. You good? Yeah. So you can tab composite is the top. And then once you have the composite, a quick way to drag all of them can right click, select all of them, and then can noodle in. And then reminder over here, it shows the order of it. So you can like see if you change the order, like what different looks you have. I'm gonna keep with difference.
How can I view what I've done in a different window?
What do you mean?
I mean, how can I? Because right now it's very small. How can I like check out what I've?
So also, I'm gonna first add a null after this because like everything else I'm just gonna put in between the null. And yeah, like I want to see this bigger. I can click for tops. You can click on this blue flag over here, this display flag, and I'll have in the background. And the more things I put the flag on, then like the smaller it gets. So and then it kind of gets a little bit messy if you put too many things and you forget which one you've had a flag on, because it's, if I'm like all the way here, then you have to kind of scavenge what is highlighted. So I recommend just having like to preview to see better one, and I usually do the null. So then like as I'm adding on, I don't have to go back, and then I can add things in between here. So this null, I'm going to call this, I'm going to call it out, capitalize. Cool, so these three are composite. Let's add more things onto this. I am gonna add a displace. Ooh, displace top is a one that we haven't played with yet. And same with the comp where I have this X sign because it wants more than one input. You see that this one has two little slots. I'm going to just drag this onto the second slot too, and then see it gets pretty trippy. And I'm going to lower this displace weight parameter to 0.1, 5.1. Kind of have this more like crystal-y look. I don't know what it is. Yeah. And after this displace, I'll add a edge top. Ooh, edge. It is?
What's the difference between insert or add for the operators when you right click? It says insert operator or add operator. Is it the same thing?
Insert, I think add. Yeah, add will just have it in the network, but it's not connected in
Oh, I
between.
see.
So insert, it's like, nug it back inside. Yeah.
If you have a mouse, if you right click on the output, it puts it in the line. If you
Yeah.
middle click your scroll button, it makes a branch out of the line.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's another kind of hotkey way to do either one of those.
Okay, thanks.
So cool. So I add an edge, but then it puts in between of it, and actually want it to layer over. So I'm gonna connect this back to the null. So this is just like a branch of this displace. And on this edge, so it creates like an outline of a stuff. And you can play with these parameters. So the strength I'm gonna have is stronger, so I have like a stronger line. And you can also change the color of it. I'm gonna keep it white, but and let's have a little like feedback on this. There's different ways of doing feedback. I do a little bit more hacky way where I open this open palette over here and I go to image filter and then there's a feedback here. So these are different tools that's like preset and you can also drag in your own tool. So over here in the palette, image filter, feedback, I'm gonna just drag, pull this over here onto the network.
Why you don't use the typical feedback from the operators?
I just think this is faster in my opinion.
No, I've never used
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah. And these are, so all these palettes are tools. So then you can see that this is not a top, this is a base. So you can like open here and you see that what it's happening inside. But I just like to use this drag and then now it has this feedback. But now it looks kind of too crazy over here. So maybe I'm gonna lower the strength and kind of like go back and forth. And I'm gonna comp this over here back. So add another composite and drag this to the composite and have this to be the out. I'm gonna change this operator to something different. Maybe let's see what add looks like. Quite intense. And the feedback over here, what's nice is you can change the opacity of it, so you can also control the strength of the feedback on the tool.
Sorry, what does the feedback do?
So you can see it. It creates a trail of the previous frame.
Yeah, it's basically copying one frame onto the next frame, but with like partial opacity.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just keeps copying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you like lower the opacity, there's less, and then you increase the like it kind of over here it's eventually gonna go white because it's gonna just keep on adding.
Yeah, if you put that at 1, then it's a full copy and it will eventually just fill up the frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can play with the opacity too. That's a thing that you like.
Probably the most common effect.
Feedback. Noise? No, effect. I feel like noise. Composite it.
Everything I do is feedback. Keep it a little bit.
I think composites more.
Can you zoom out just a little bit?
Yeah.
What else is feeding into
So this displace branch to edge to feedback, and then these two to comps.
Yeah, with the display.
And then I have the edge one on top of the displace. This is also a good time to save. I'll just put this on my desktop for now.
Yeah, if you're having trouble seeing your network lines, you can turn the background display off, and you'll see the network a little easier.
So here's like a zoom out of what we have. And let's play around with just like changing the colors of this. So one way, I'm going to make a ramp top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a ramp and then make a gradient. And I want the this image noise animation to reference this gradient. So so this ramp can do whatever color range you want. So right now it's like black to white. You can select that. If you look close, there's like a little square. You can select that and can make it to a different color. I'm gonna have like it to be like a blue to like a yellow maybe, or purple. And if you just in this color ramp part, if you like select in the middle, you can make more points. But be careful not to make too many points because it's a goofy thing where you can't delete points that I know of. So okay, I have this blue, yellow, purple. You can have any color you want. And between this, before the out, I'm gonna add a lookup top. And if I connect this ramp to this lookup, it'll like reference the colors towards it. So, and you can go back and forth like, oh, I want to change this actually to like a different blue or deeper purple.